Well, hello, and a very warm welcome to another edition of the podcast on for Dads Unlimited. And today it's double trouble. And as you can see, we've got Mirza from Dads Unlimited with us today, and we've got Kieran Osborne from Squiggle. What a fantastic name for a company. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hand over to the guys, first of all, just to introduce their organizations and their businesses. And then we're going to have a chat today about the partnership, the alliance that they've started to develop and why it's happening and what the benefits are to it for both parties. So we'll start with you then, Nav. Tell us, for those of people who don't know, what the Dads Unlimited is and your role within it.
Thanks, Phil, and lovely to see you again. Yes, so Dads Unlimited, a national charity supporting the fathers who are going through family breakdown and who lose contact with their children. We also support male victims of domestic abuse, and we offer them various different services. We offer an independent domestic violence advocacy service. We offer a mentoring service, mental health support, and that could include counselling, support group meetings, peer groups support meetings, co-parenting programs. We run a program called Discovery, which is for male victims to learn more about the abuse they suffered and how to identify issues in future relationships and how to get out of them in a safe way. We also do community activities, and of course we do a lot around raising awareness of men's issues, men's mental health, and suicide prevention, because front and center, that's what we are. We're a suicide prevention charity because we've identified and made a link quite empirically between fathers and men who are going through family breakdown, fathers and men who are experiencing domestic abuse, fathers and men who are losing contact with their children, and the increased risk of suicide as a result. So we've been able to get all that together in one place and say, I think we've got some solutions to help this. And that's what we've been doing over the last 7 years, expanding from where we were a Kent-based charity to a national charity, helping men and fathers across England and Wales.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for that, Nav, and that's great. And I know that we haven't got time for it today, but I know that your personal story, there is actually an interview on the podcast history with me talking to you very candidly about some of the experiences you've had. So I would certainly encourage anybody who's interested in this to watch that, because it's very honest of you to have to share that, as I said at the time, and definitely worth a watch and a listen. Okay, so we'll now head over now to Kieran Osborne from Squiggle. What a great name. So tell us who you are then, Kieran, and what your role is in Squiggle.
Sure, yeah. So I started Squiggle over 6 years ago now. Initially just myself, and we prepare estate planning. So that could be wills, trusts, powers of attorney. Very quickly, the business became bigger than me, and we rebranded to Squiggle, and it was actually a client that came up with it, just based on your signature, really. And now it's actually embarrassing when I say, "Oh, just squiggle your signature there," and I'm like, "No, I'm not trying to be on brand here. It's just natural." So yeah, that's kind of where the name comes from. But we wanted to be different, and that's why we've got a different name to your traditional law firm, because we want to be different. My background is banking, and ultimately I got made redundant as part of the transition from banking to be that relationship based with your bank manager, your own personal point of contact at the bank. And I didn't like the way that was going. So that's why I've kind of actually created Squiggle on the background of that, of creating that relationship with people. And that's where it kind of works with organizations like Dads Unlimited. We want to create that relationship where we work with the community, which I think is really, really good. We've now serviced over 8,000 clients in the last 6 years, and that we've done no advertising. That is based on relationships, working with families to make sure that their wishes and dreams are looked after. And I thought, when I heard about Dads Unlimited, for us, it was a perfect opportunity to work with an organization that is dealing with parental responsibility and making sure that the right person is looking after the children, or at least has the right to look after their children. And ultimately, that's what one of the main things that a basic will does, is gives away that parental responsibility when someone passes away. So for us, Nav and the guys at Dads Unlimited are doing that whilst people are alive and helping dads go through court and this, that, and the other. What happens if one of those dads then passes away? We want to make sure that parental responsibility is then passed on to the right people if and when that happens. So yeah, we work with giving back to the community. We want to do far more than just provide a product. We want to really give back. And that's why we created that partnership, really. So yeah, so we're supporting them with wills for both their supporters, so anyone that wants to donate to Dads Unlimited, but also the actual people they're helping as well.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. Okay, Nav, so what's your perspective on things then? How did you come across Kieran and Squiggle, and how did the conversation develop?
So if I'm being completely frank, and it's kind of like diving into my own personal journey a little bit. I remember when I came out the other end of my challenges and difficulties, you know, I had a solicitor as well, but I knew straight away with my lawyer saying to me, look, you've had this quite a monumental change in your life. You need to update your will. And so I knew straight away, I thought, yeah, there are changes. I've now become a single father. I'm divorced, and my son lives with me. So actually, I've got to make sure that I'm making some sensible plans for the future should the worst happen. And you know, sometimes these things are, you know, unpredictable. But my son comes first. And when I went through changing my will afterwards, I knew instantaneously when DU started and the work that we were doing with all these fathers. That's the really important bit at the end. Now, obviously, I couldn't do that. I don't have any way of doing that. We're a charity. We can't do our clients' wills, etc. So when we moved offices in 2022, and Squiggle came to my attention, and I remember saying to my team then, I was like, "Ooh, this is a bit of a missing link, and actually this could solve our problems quite well." And myself and Kieran had some conversations back in 22, and then life got in the way, as they say, and it took a little while, but we've finally come back round, because the really important thing is we're a mental health charity. And when the fathers and the men that we look after, once they come out of their difficulties and we've got them to either a place of safety, got them back connected with their children, got them happily divorced or separated, etc., etc., it doesn't end there. There's a bow that you've got to tie at the end. And I think this bit's really important. And what I wanted to do is get a professional organisation to do that for us. So it kind of like fate kind of intervened and just like threw Squiggle on our doorstep. You know, like where the offices are, where we are based, it's a 60-second walk. How convenient. We have clients coming here. How convenient. And so it was just not a marriage made in heaven, but it just made complete sense for us to be on the same place and actually raise awareness that, guys, you know, now you've done this and you've got through the other end, this is one little step to do. And this bit's really important because you've taken care of your family through your difficulties. But now your difficulties are over. It doesn't mean you stop taking care of your family in the future. And whatever happens in the future and whatever that looks like, you need to make preparations, you know, because I don't know if either of you know this, but none of us are immortal. So it's not like we're going to live forever. I know, Phil, I know. It was a shock to me. It was an absolute shock to me. Didn't realise. Literally thought I'd live forever. Honestly, angry. Anyway, that bit's really important. To just tie that up, make sure it's all in a nice little bow. And the beautiful thing is working with an organisation like Squiggle. I mean, we could have gone to solicitors, yeah. And I know solicitors will listen to this, and I'm not criticising them, etc. But I wanted to partner with an organisation that had an ethos which was similar to ours, which had values similar to ours, which had a way of working which was trauma-informed, appreciative, understanding, empathic, and respectful. I'm not saying solicitors aren't that, but I just felt there was more in line, our values were more in line with Squiggle, and Squiggle's values are in line with ours than others. And I just thought this is really good because actually it's much more holistic, it's much more family orientated, and this would work much better. So like I say, this is the beginning of the partnership. and hopefully we'll be able to raise awareness of the importance of get your will sorted out. Another area is life insurance. I think that's really important as well. That has to be looked into, and we're exploring a potential partnership with an insurance company on that at the moment, because these bits people forget about after divorce or separation, and they just go, oh yeah, it's all done now, I'm sorted, don't have to worry about it. But you shouldn't, and our job is to raise awareness and to inform, and then hopefully pass on to Kieran to go, let's help you tie that bone, let's do this, let's wrap this all up nice and neat for you. And as Kieran will explain, this year's will could be different in 2 years' time. You can change it.
It makes total sense. How do the mechanics work then, Kieran? From your perspective, how do the mechanics work, the practical side? How does it work in terms of the relationship, and how do you guys share clients, and how does it work?
Sure. And I think what Nav said about the holistic view of everything is really, really important. So people are going through that journey with Dads Unlimited, and at the end, like you say, they've gone through that painful journey, and it's a case of them being introduced to us to tie that bow, as Nav put it. And we will meet with a client, and we're a national organisation, so we can meet wherever in the country it is. And sit down with them and kind of discuss their wishes. So we'll get to know the clients. We'll understand what they want to do, what they want to achieve from their planning. And this isn't just about a will. This is about all later life planning, okay, as such, because like Nav mentioned, it's not just kind of you stop there and that's it and you're immortal. Anything can happen, whether it's loss of capacity or death, something like that. And then you have lots of different, what we call what ifs. Okay, what if my son remarried or divorced? What's going to then happen to that inheritance that he's due to receive, or whatever it may be? So we'll discuss all these different what ifs in life, what if that happened, to make sure that they're as protected as they want to be. Because there is no right or wrong answer as to every client is different. So we'll really get to understand what their aspirations are for their planning. And then we'll put a plan together and say, right, okay, this is what we can do for you. This is going to tick every box that you've mentioned is important to you. Okay. But that may be too expensive. And then we're like, okay, this idea here ticks most of them and is this much money. Or going down to a basic will, which nominates guardians for any dependents, which is, like I said, one of the things that triggered me to speak to Dads Unlimited, and identifies who's going to inherit. Those two things, we're actually prepared to do that for Dads Unlimited clients and their supporters, completely complimentary. So we'll put a basic will in place free of charge, to at least get something organised, because I'm not stupid to realise that a will is not a glamorous product. It's not a glamorous service. And as Nav mentioned, life gets in the way. I've met with clients and say, yeah, we want to do this in place, but we've just paid for a holiday, or we've just paid for that new sofa, so we've got nothing in place. And obviously, if they've gone for a lengthy court battle, finances might have been hit. So therefore, let's at least get the basics in place. And like I say, we'll do that complimentary, so that you're kind of on the ladder of protecting your family.
Yeah, I mean, is it fair to say that younger people? I can't remember that far back, but is it fair to say that younger people? Is there an element of it? I'm thinking about life insurance, for example. It'll never happen to me. Is there an element of, there's a lot of talk about pensions crisis, and I'll think about that. I'm only 29. What does it matter? Is there a lot of that going on as well? And I'll get wills in particular, and I can relate to this myself. I'll get round to it eventually, and another year goes by, and then you've done sod all about it. Is that how it tends to work?
100%, yeah, definitely. And that's why we say, let's get them on that ladder. Although you don't feel this is important, I do, and Nav does. They've gone through this, so let's get the basics in place. And then what will normally happen is some sort of life event happens, and it wakes you up, and you think, hang on, yeah, Kieran was right when I saw him and did that basic will. I now need a little bit of extra protection, or even I spoke to Kieran about doing a will and I never bothered because I thought I was immortal. Actually, I've just had a friend pass away or something. Probably should put that back up the top of the priority list. And that's what we're there to do. Is we can't convince someone how important something is. I've just actually had a life experience myself that makes me think I really should review my critical illness cover. My little nephew, unfortunately, has just been taken into critical care. Fortunately, they've got critical illness cover and it's paying out to make sure that they can take the time off work to look after him while he's in critical care. I'm thinking, well, hang on, what happens if I did that? If something happened to me, how's my partner going to be able to make sure my mortgage is paid for, plus look after me? So it's one of those things that, unfortunately, normally what happens is some sort of life event happens that makes you think, yeah, no, that is really important.
I'm just wondering actually to what degree social media impacts on this, because I'm thinking about myself now where you know, people I was at school with, I'm now connected with on social media. You know, back in the day, you'd have walked away from a working experience or school and you'd never see people ever again or even speak to anybody ever again, because you're in contact with them. And what I see when I think about what you're saying there is I see so many posts from friends and people I know or people I used to work with who are sharing their problems. You know, the fact that I've just, without going into too much detail, a work acquaintance, for example, just suddenly announced the other day that that his wife had died of cancer. She was 36, for crying out loud. Now, I wouldn't have known that in the past. So are those events becoming more in our conscious mind because of things like social media?
Yeah, I believe so. Definitely. It's one of those ways of kind of broadcasting a message. And it's certainly something that kind of wakes you up, really. We've recently started using TikTok, and the amount of people that are sharing stories on our comments to say, yeah, that happened to me. And you've also got people on the comments saying, that won't happen, that can't happen, that won't happen. And then you've got someone replying saying, actually, no, that did happen to me. So it's one of those things that kind of gets around. Like we got criticized on one of ours, and it was about actual parental guardianship, about scaremongering, saying, oh, you're just scaring people. And someone said, no, I wish someone had done this to me, otherwise I wouldn't have gone through that court battle trying to fight for my children or whatever it may be. So actually, although yes, it's scary, if you put the planning in place, it's not so scary.
Well, exactly. And if it's real, it's real. You know, it's not scaremongering. You're not sending people videos of a haunted house. It's real life stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's your view on this, Nav? What's your perspective on
this? I agree completely. And actually, it kind of ties in, if I bring it into sort of the men's mental health kind of arena as a little bit, because if you think about like prostate cancer for men, you know, there's loads of men out there who recently, and it's consistent marketing around go and get checked out, go and see your GP. Men are just crap at going to see the doctors. You know, we're just rubbish. We're worried about this, we're worried about that, but we won't say anything. We'll just keep quiet, put our head in the sand, and off we go. And wills fall exactly into that same bracket. It's a definite event that we just don't want to engage with, because I think there's an element of that's not going to happen to me or whatever, and so they don't want to talk about it. So I think all of this is kind of like wrapped up in that same psyche. And I think one of the things we want to do with our partnership with Squiggle is break those narratives, break that cycle of it's not going to happen to me, and do something about it, because that's the bit that we want to do. Because if we can do that, actually what we are doing is we are raising awareness about protecting your family afterwards. And I think that's really important.
Yeah. And is there also assumptions as well, Kieran, that, oh, it'll be fine because my wife will just get it, or my husband will just get it, or my kids will automatically get it, because they just make assumptions and don't understand the complexities of the law, for starters, as to who gets what, when, why. And if they're, oh, next of kin, it's not a problem, so why bother?
Yeah, 100%. There is that. Just quickly on Nav's point, there is 100% a taboo around it, and people don't want to talk about death. And that's one of the reasons why I brought that relationship stuff back. Is, I mean, I'll hear through the meeting room door, one of our consultants laughing hysterically with a client, and they're having jokes and laughs and this, that, and the other. It's not a depressing thing to talk about, because we just talk about family, really. So it's not a scary meeting to have. We do keep it really relaxed, just a chat over a cup of tea, really. But going back to your point about, oh, it will get sorted, potentially it could. There is something called the laws of intestacy, which the government have set out some rules in place that if you don't have a will, these rules are to be followed. But would you want to rely on a list that the government have created and just hope that it will get sorted? Would you not want that guarantee? I mean, for example, I don't have children, but I know that I wouldn't want my nieces and nephews looked after for an hour by someone that I don't know, that I haven't chose, let alone a couple of weeks, couple of months, or even the rest of their life. So I would rather that just extra guarantee.
Yeah, absolutely. And because it's so much more complex as well, isn't it, now, with blended families, use inverted commas, broken families, or just changes in families. It's not always a horrendous negative thing. It's just that maybe a marriage ran out of steam, that, you know, there's a lot of, it was amicable. But at the end of the day, that has all sorts of implications around stepchildren and
exactly
so the complexity of life as well, isn't it?
Definitely. And one of the biggest things that's happening nowadays is people don't see the importance of getting married. And so there's a lot of unmarried partners living together. And an unmarried partner, call it archaic, has no legal right whatsoever. So I'm not married to my partner. We live together. If I died and didn't have a will, she'd get thrown out.
Yeah, exactly.
Would I want that for my partner? We've been together quite some time now. I don't think I'd want that for my partner. And when people aren't getting married, and that's okay, but just unfortunately the law doesn't allow for that when you pass away.
And can I just add just on that one point? That's a really important point, Kieran, because as you can appreciate, we support men after family breakdown. Most of them are probably married. If they have a new relationship, they've all said, I'm not going to get married again, but they will enter into a new relationship and remain unmarried. So actually that point's quite well made, that even if you fall in love with someone and you don't want to get married, that's fine, but you still need to protect them if, for example, she is the one.
Or he is the one, of course, Nav.
Well, he is the one, yeah. You are the one, Phil. You will always be the one. Don't worry.
I know that, but let's not air that relationship on air.
Yeah, okay.
It's inappropriate, and my wife might be listening
Sorry.
as well. Yeah. So what I was going to say actually was that is there anything covered in school around this stuff? I know there's always this tendency to say, oh well, they should be teaching that in school, but you could end up with the kids being at school 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, and still not cover everything. So it's a bit of a misnomer, really. But is anything currently talked about in school in any shape or form about this stuff, or is it like no chance? It's way too far off.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is way too far off completely. And I agree that I remember there being a experience about borrowing money. And I had an 18-year-old get into debt when I was at the bank and stuff. And I was like, did you not get educated on this? So, no, it's not part of the curriculum. And it's the same with wills and estate planning. It's just there's too much to cover, like you say, and you'd be at school 24/7. We have got a couple of partnerships with schools where we've gone in and done talks. So yeah, that's one thing we are trying to do. Is educate, and that's one of the reasons why we've come on TikTok. I mean, a few of my staff laughed at me and was like, "It's just kids on TikTok." I was like, "Yeah, but they're our future clients that need educating." So yeah, that's one of the reasons why we're trying to do that through partnerships and so forth, is to get out and do talks with schools and things.
Well, the question that everybody's asking themselves now is there a TikTok with Kieran Osborne dancing in the office with a plant pot on his head? That's what everybody's asking.
As much as our social media manager wants me to do that, I haven't done it just yet.
Yeah. So if your social media manager watches this, then just yet, doesn't it?
He's forever on my case to do silly little things for TikTok, and yeah, no, I can't bring myself around to doing that.
Yeah, so don't look at our TikTok either.
How hard is it, Nav? Then how hard is it to get people to focus on the finance. I always think of the finance arguably as a practical side in contextual terms. How difficult is it to get them to talk about and think about finance if they're in an emotional state that is almost arguably even survival? Is there elements of it that are at all kind of like,
It's a good question.
what, I can't really think
So
about that right now because I'm in an emotional mess.
Yeah, so this is a really good question.
Yeah.
And a really good question. So we don't really talk to them about the financial side of things whilst they're going through the challenges of family court and this, that, and the other. One, because it's not really appropriate. Two, they could be in a really bad place. As you know, our raison d'etre is suicide prevention.
Yeah.
So we don't want to layer on too much complexity about what you should be thinking about. It's about it's basically looking after that person in that moment and getting them to the next moment in the most safest way possible. But invariably, by the time we get nearer the end, that conversation needs to start happening. And it's very much a breadcrumb conversation. We'll start it very slow pace because some of the guys we help, they don't want to hear from us again because we've got them through the other side and they just need a breather because they may have a little bit of post-traumatic stress. They may have some triggering conversations or feelings around revisiting these sort of things, which is why sometimes for some guys we'll leave the conversation for 5 or 6 weeks, but we will revisit it at some point because I believe we haven't done our job right if we haven't done that last bit. So it's about going at their own pace. Some guys just don't want to know, and that's fair enough. You can feel that way, and that's all right. But we will still arm them with the information should they wish to revisit that at a later date. But a lot of guys will say, "Oh yeah, actually, thanks for bringing that up." And like I said, in the past, we wouldn't know where to send them. Now we do. So it's really helpful that we've got this partnership because we can now go, therefore, go and see Kieran at Squiggle, etc. And they are a little bit more up for that conversation because they do understand that this is a protective conversation and these are preparations and plans they need to be putting in place. Most of them are quite sensible around that sort of stuff. So the conversation is not too hard, but we go at their own pace at the right time, taking into account in a trauma-informed way where they are in their journey. And we wouldn't unnecessarily layer them with too much complexity because it just wouldn't be appropriate.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, sorry, Kieran, I have to say that it's basically very refreshing to hear anybody in this modern day and age to be talking about what in essence is personal care, hands-on human personal care. If anything, AI is moving away from that at a fast rate of knots, and everything's about, the banking industry. Kieran's a great example. I don't have to tell you that. So it's very refreshing. Sorry, I interrupted you there, Kieran. What you were going to say?
Yeah, I think it's really important. The breadcrumb analogy is exactly what we do is at a time that is ready. So you kind of give them, so they're obviously on quite a stressful journey when they go through and probably first engage with Dads Unlimited, and they make that as easy as possible. But giving too much at once is overwhelming. So that's why we're introduced quite late on as things are kind of calming down on that, and we just kind of take them on that journey. And in the financial services industry, there's something called consumer duty, which is being brought in, which is we have a duty of care to educate clients on these different things. And that's where I think towards the end of the journey, that's what Dads Unlimited have got, is that consumer duty to educate the client and let them know this is the next level of protection that you now need to move on to once the dust has settled here. And we have the same, because we talk a little bit about life insurance and pensions. So we have a consumer duty, in my belief, is towards the end of our journey of setting up their estate planning, is actually, right, okay, now you've done that, you may want to then look at X, Y, and Z. But again, if we overloaded the client with that all at the very beginning, it's just going to be too overwhelming, you never get anything done. So we try and remove those barriers by kind of drip feeding those different things. And that's why, again, the basic will, if those people are overwhelmed with trusts and powers of attorney and inheritance tax and all this, that, and the other, let's just get the basics in place now, and then we can explore other things later on.
Fantastic.
So, drip feeding.
Fantastic. Okay, so finally then, be useful to get some contact information for you guys, for people who want to find out more about what's going on about this whole relationship and partnership. So Nav, do you want to start by just providing us with the main website or key contact information for Dads Unlimited?
Yep. So the website is www.dadsunltd.org.uk, and if you go into the news section, there's a post on there about our partnership with Squiggle, and that's probably the easiest way to get to us. Or follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, formerly known as Twitter. I'm trying to think what else we're on, actually. Probably a few other bits.
Or
and pieces.
anything else that's going to be invented in the next 3 months.
Yeah, exactly. Kieran was talking about his social media manager. So obviously we've got our own, and yeah, the amount of stuff that they do and the platforms. Do you think we should be on there? Do you think we should be on there?
Yeah,
yeah, massive.
Yeah,
Website's the best place.
Okay, fantastic. And about you, Kieran, how can people find out about Squiggle?
Yeah, sure. If you haven't found us via Dads Unlimited, then you can go to all the social media channels. It's at Squiggle Consult, and our website squiggleconsult.co.uk. If you do scroll to the bottom of our website, you will see where you can actually book in. You will access our diaries directly. So if you do want a complimentary consultation with us, you can scroll to the bottom of the website and book in, and you'll see our availability there and then. That's a free chat just to see what we can do to offer you. We can do for you. Secondly, you can email us hello@squiggleconsult.co.uk. So yeah, that's the best way to get hold of us, really.
Fantastic. Well, can I just say thanks very much indeed for joining us today, fellas. It's been absolutely fantastic talking to you, and a little bit of banter thrown in just to show that we've still got a good sense of humour. Even some of these things can be quite dark in some cases. So thanks very much indeed for joining me today. Thanks very much indeed for joining us today, everybody. And we'll look forward to catching up with you maybe in the future and tell us how the Squiggle Dads Unlimited relationship is developing and working. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. See you again on the next episode of Dads Unlimited podcast. Bye for now.